Hello everybody and welcome to the second video, part 2 of 10. I'm going to do 10 hours worth, we've already done 1 hour, on chronic fatigue syndrome, which is what I have really badly and almost took my life because it was so bad in 2004. Go back and have a look at part 1 if you want to know more about my history. This video is about what is ME, what it actually is. What is ME? What is chronic fatigue syndrome? What is fibromyalgia? So I'm an advanced EFT practitioner, NLP master, clinical hypnotherapist, life coach and Enneagram mentor, and qualified at the Optimal Health Clinic in London. Qualified at the end of 2007, started in spring 2006. So I did the year and then repeated the year. So I trained with Alex Howard down there. I actually had personal mentoring with him for about 18 months because he did originally wish for me to work at the clinic and saw potential in me because I'd done a lot of work already, and I'd thrown myself into personal development in a huge way. I'd listened to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of life-changing audio, and so I came into it. When I was studying and getting the qualification, I was quite a few steps above other people because I immersed myself in all the stuff that I now do. I just didn't have a qualification in it. In fact, I did my first ever hypnosis CD well before I got a qualification as a clinical hypnotherapist. I did it when my dad was terminally ill with cancer in 2001. So it was 5 years later. I actually was studying it, and I really just made the hypnotherapy CD because I kind of had a sense of how to make one through having listened to them myself over the years, because I had so much anxiety. And that is an interesting topic to go to, because is there a link between chronic fatigue syndrome, ME, and fibromyalgia and anxiety? Yes. Okay, so this is a book. What is ME? What is all this stuff? Yeah. So this is a book I use. This is $129. You can see there, $129. You can get it cheaper. You don't have to purchase this book at all, because why would you? This is for professionals, and I use this with clients all over the world because this is my office and I work via Skype with people all over the world. And I get about 15% of clients who've got health issues, and then I refer to this book, then I refer to this book, and then I refer to this book. And guess what? They all kind of pretty much say the same things. So if we're going to go to, how can I do this? Maybe I've got to be careful with copyright here, but okay, you're not probably going to be able to read that well. So look at the first one. The first one says chronic disease, okay? And the next one underneath it says, I'm reading this back to front, chronic fatigue syndrome. What does that say? Chronic fatigue immune dysfunction syndrome, CFIDS. Exhaustion and irritability that can lead to gland problems, meningitis, and immune system breakdown. Okay, so let's just look at chronic disease first. So I'm making that really close so you can read it, and I'm going to read it back out. So you could pause that, go back and pause that if you want to read it. Basically, with chronic disease, it says, because I work with all different types of chronic disease, and as I've said in the other video, I didn't want to work with ME because I'd had it for such a long time. Chronic fatigue syndrome, people around the world won't know what ME is. People call chronic fatigue syndrome in Britain ME, which is, let's just leave that there. That's what they do, and around the world it's chronic fatigue syndrome. So let's call it CFS. If I do mention ME again, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about CFS. Okay? So with chronic disease, and did I say I work with clients with all different types of illness, but a lot of serious disease. People don't come with minor issues. It's sort of like, if they're coming and we're working like on Parkinson's or multiple sclerosis, cancer, lymphoma, which is a form of cancer. What else have I worked with? IBS, quite in a big way, and all different autoimmune kind of problems as well. The guy in America with some eye disease, which is what I had, and he heard that I'd got iritis, which was an eye disease, and he wanted to work with me. Okay, so chronic disease here. It says, hell no, I won't grow. They are manifesting a refusal to change and expand, arising out of a fear of the future. They don't feel safe in the world, and they don't trust the process of the world, and they operate out of catastrophic expectations. They would rather stick with the unpleasant present than to take a chance on the unknown future. It comes with a leave well enough alone attitude, inducing severely dysfunctional family system in which any interventional change was very likely to make things considerably worse than they already were. So there's many reasons why people develop chronic disease. One is the dysfunctional family that they grow up in, and trauma. There are other mitigating circumstances as well, such as diets aren't what they once were years ago, and we've got overexposure to chemicals and all the rest of it. I might do another video at some point. I mean, I've just done my hair this morning. I don't use. What do I use for my hair products? It's just something that I used to use years ago because my health was so bad, but I still do to this day. So I put honey and salt in my hair in a mixture. And then rub that through and all the rest of it. It works and I put some clay in there as well. My deodorant is aloe vera and tea tree, aloe vera gel and tea tree oil. I wash my hair with bicarbonate of soda and water, and then that's my shampoo, and then my conditioner is apple cider vinegar and water. So there's so many different things that I learned to do, and I still do to this day, in order to remain as healthy as I can. Yes, there are other circumstances, but all I'm going to talk about is the psychological and emotional aspect of serious disease, because that's what I specialise in. Yes, you could work on this, but if you're going away just eating chunky monkey ice cream, day in, day out, for 3 meals a day, and, you've got to look after yourself as well. So the thing with serious disease is there's so many things. If you go and have a look at that video that I recorded with a friend called Fiona Shakila Burns, who recovered from a terminal diagnosis of cancer twice, she didn't just work on her emotions and her psychology. She said, I never left one stone left unturned. So there's so many things that you can do. But what I specialise in is the psychological aspect and the emotional aspect of any disease, not just ME and chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia, any illness. And if you refer that back to what chronic disease is, if we came from a dysfunctional family, and who comes from a functional family? But with serious disease, there's always usually quite chronic dysfunction. And so we learned to be more on a heightened state of alert when we were younger. We might have not felt very safe. We might not have had a lot of control. We might not have felt very loved. So that's usually quite a common correlation, usually always. If someone says they're not, they're usually slightly in denial to a degree, because every human being had a past, and we can all be angry at our parents. And it's not about being angry at your parents because you've got a disease. It's about recognising that had a part to play. And with chronic dis-ease, it means chronic unease, and a great unease, and an unease within your mind. And we need to create a mind of ease. And when the mind is in more of a state of ease, the dis-ease disappears. It tends to fade away. Okay, so I'm just going to read through chronic fatigue syndrome here. Okay, the first one is, and there's numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's just in this one. And I think there's another section. I'm not sure if fibromyalgia's in here. Yes, it is. Fibromyalgia's in here as well. So I'll make it's probably going to be very similar. One is the same. Anyway, let's read through this. Chronic fatigue syndrome. Number 1, crushed talent. They are undergoing unfulfilled giftedness suppression, resulting in severe despair rage, along with commotional episodes of almost psychotic-seeming proportions and utter exhaustion comparable to Epstein-Barr. Well, I got the Epstein-Barr virus, and that can be true of crushed talent, absolutely, because I wanted to be an athlete and eventually become an Olympic athlete and set world records and all the rest of it, and that didn't happen. They also find themselves being used for their gifts in the form of uncontrollable outbursts and breakouts of their talents in a non-functional and often highly detrimental manner. In addition, they also go into experiences and expressions of intense mental and emotional distress and distortion and that are extremely alarming and alienating. They feel possessed by these explosions, and they become quite run-amok anxious about it all. In addition, they are also possessed by their family, by institutions, and or by spouse figures. They are the product of an extremely possessive and an oppressive parenting that got started intrauterine, so that's in the womb. They were forbidden and prevented from doing their own thing and or from developing their own capabilities, identity and destiny. They were instead forced into playing out their parent or parents, usually the father's, unexpressed destiny. That could be absolutely spot on with me. My father wanted me to become very successful as an athlete because he liked sport and he wasn't. So I really pushed myself to get my father's love, to get security, to get everything, and I became crush talent. Next one, and it could be one or all of these things, or pick one out which feels quite right for you. Next one is pooped out. They're pushing beyond their limits, and they have a driven fear of not being good enough, leading to an exhausted reaction. They were draining all of their inner support, and a stress virus took hold. They are running on empty due to overwhelm and deprivation exhaustion. They have lost their sense of purpose and direction, of the desire for life, and the wind has gone out of their sails. They have developed a deep fear of life, of taking further responsibility, and of coping with any further demands. The illness can become a safe place to be, a retreat from confrontation and action. They are the product of perfectionistic parenting. I had a good Christian friend many years ago, and he had type 2 with a 3 wing. The 3 is about achiever, and she definitely got that. My cousin also got this, and he believes this is only a type 4, so he would have had some part of the 3 wing, and the 3 is about being driven and achieving. Alex Howard himself is only a type 3, and very much High Achievers Award, and that's how he created his illness, as well as family dysfunction and all the rest of it. So you can go in and heal all this stuff, basically. Now, the next one is overwhelmed. They are into a hapless, helpless, hopeless victimization experience. There is an inability to self-nurture, self-appreciate, and self-soothe. As a result of all of this, they can sometimes end up being care-coercing of the environment in a very belated attempt to get the fundamental nurturing they never receive. In general, they compulsively seek to minimize further damage, and they try to earn some semblance of acceptance. The family was highly authoritarian, non-supportive, and repressive-suppressive from the beginning. Often there was also physical and sexual abuse, along with the intense emotional abuse and deprivation. They were subjected to highly conditional, demanding, and self-immersed parenting, and there was no joy in Mudville. The whole pattern could be summarised in the phrase, "it's not allowed." Now, I haven't seen any clients with sexual abuse, but physical abuse, that was definitely me in my childhood. This is an American book, so this is what he would have observed, because he specialised in working with tiny bio, PhD in clinical psychology at the University of Oregon. His experience includes several years teaching, researching, assisting and working in mental hospitals, counselling centre, mental health clinic and the Institution for the Mentally Challenged. Masses and masses of inner work. Enneagram type 5, highly knowledgeable, and held it back to the point that his marriage broke down, and then finally wrote 7 books in about 6 months or something like that. Next one, I stink. There is a programmed self-rejection that has resulted in a belly up of the immune system. It, in effect, works against them as if they were allergic to themselves and to the world. They were placed in the family host position of over-responsibility, and they were targeted with the attributed accountability for everything that went wrong in the family, as if it was a motivated letdown, betrayal, or a personal failure on their part. This came about as a function of their being a gifted child living in a dysfunctional family who expected them to be able to handle all the family's problems. They played the hero or heroine role in the family, and they turned into a workaholic, achieverholic, contribution freak. They operated in a chronic flight-fight system arousal in childhood in a context of continual rejection, blame-throwing and impossible demands. They became very accomplished and independent with perfectionistic standards around worth earning arising from unpleasurable parenting. They could never ever measure up. They ended up validation starved as a result. Next one, hands-on rescue efforts. They have a huge control trip that doesn't work, that arises because they have no sense of their personal worth or value. They have no sense of entitlement, along with a tremendous over-responsibility pattern about saving others as their justification for existence. There is a severe family betrayal delusion and a guilt-grabbing propensity. due to their being told in effect they caused World War II. It was a Cinderella syndrome, where due to their gifts they actually tried to go for the gold ring of healing their family. There was little nurturance, compassion, or protection in infancy, very true of me, which resulted in very heavy self-numbing and, chocoholic, used to be, and frantic, fanatic efforting to make up for what they have caused. They were in effect abandoned at an early age by expectations of perfection and miracles. In the meantime, the family was so severely exploitative and betraying as they overwhelmingly expected of and overutilised them. No one taught them self-care or self-soothing in their first year of life. They were expected to care for the parents instead. Wow. They are now collapsing out of a sense of non-deservingness and from having run out of inner resources to pull the rabbit out of the hat trick anymore. Okay? Fibromyalgia. Can you see that there? Can you see that? It says there, fibromyalgia. The first one was pooped out, which we've already covered. They're pushing beyond their limits and have a dread-driven fear of not being good enough, leading to the exhaustion and reaction. They were draining all of their inner support, and a stress virus took hold. They're running empty due to overwhelming deprivation, exhaustion, and the product of perfectionistic parenting. The next one's self-distrust. They have great difficulty coordinating the execution of things, integrating ideas of what is wanted to be accomplished with the pragmatic results they're getting, and dealing with feelings and issues associated with success. They have little sense of competence and confidence, and they are having significant problems in mobility, flexibility, and activity. They have to be extremely inhibited and careful in all they do, or they become immobilized and unable to take action. It arises from intensely self-distrust inducing, keep them around the old homestead family, who program them to be super successful for the family only, and to otherwise fail. They have come up a cropper in reaction to the re-emergence of continued confrontation with this dilemma, and has effectively immobilized them. The last one is hunkering in the bunker. They are resistant to new experiences and they are refusing to move on in life. Unsettling memories are surfacing and they must confront issues that have been long put off. There is either guilt-based self-punishment and atonement seeking, or a belief in bondage, victimization, and victim tripping. In any case, they have a deep feeling of separation and sinfulness arising from the massive guilt induction, their family for who they were, what they needed, what they did, and what went down in the family. Absolutely true, true of me. Put that one down over there. The reality is that when you get into self-development, it's not like you get into self-development and there is an end point. When do you ever stop growing? And you can just continue to work on things. And it would seem absolutely ridiculous just for me to quit now, since I've made so much progress. And I've seen a couple of thousand clients all over the world. It becomes addictive to continue to grow and to let go of the nonsense that still is in here, the unconscious stuff. I use all these techniques on myself every day. I practice what I preach. I live my book, which I've been writing for quite a long time. I'm a living example of all of this stuff. Okay, so let's have a look at this. My health is really good. 121 chronic fatigue syndrome. 121. So I'll just say now I invite people to have a 20-minute consultation with me. Okay, chronic fatigue syndrome, or myalgic encephalomyelitis, whatever it's called. CFS, usually occurring after a virus attack, but not always. Mine was with glandular fever. ME can last for years and includes muscle fatigue, mental exhaustion, headaches, and emotional weakness. Indicated here is a loss of purpose or direction or desire for life, as if all the wind has gone out of our sails. It can mean a deep fear of life, of taking responsibility, of coping with demands. The illness becomes a safe place to be, a retreat from action and confrontation. It can be connected to leaving home, with rejection and loss of love, as well as being a means for gaining extra attention. Okay, what about fibromyalgia? No. Okay, nothing in that book that I can clearly see. There might be. I'm not going to take lots of time doing that. Okay, so it mentioned about virus in there, and this is the way that I learned about what causes chronic fatigue syndrome. Let's say this is a boat, okay? And this is your body. This is the vessel, okay? When we have let's choose something like, when we have use one of the other books like this. When we have a dysfunctional past, depending on the level of dysfunction that we've got, So the issues that we come out from childhood. So let's say, you know, we end up becoming fearful about some things, or we have issues about mum, or issues about dad, or we have some stuff, okay, that we carry with us from childhood that we haven't resolved, okay? We're either angry, we're fearful, we're sad, we're hurt, there's something that unconsciously is going on. So let's just say we're the boat and we come out from childhood with this stuff. You know, I'm not a father, and it's a conscious choice. If I did become a father, I would consciously do the best job that I could, but the reality is I would still do something to my children on some level because I'm a human being, and I'm doing the best that I can. I prefer to be an uncle instead, and I'm an uncle. But, you know, both my brothers and both, as well as my sister, are now parents, and they both say how, you know, they get exhausted at times, and they say things that they shouldn't, and they treat them in a way that, you know, they shouldn't. It's not massive dysfunction, but our parents aren't enlightened beings, so they put their stuff onto us. And we come away from it, and then your kids and the kids, and it came from grandparents and their parents. So this is where, you know, spirituality comes in, and sort of in order to be able to find peace and beingness now, and to come out of your ego. But we all come up. Even if you had the most amazing childhood, you're still going to come away with some stuff. Yeah. So so let's say you have your stuff now with chronic fatigue syndrome. And with serious disease, there's usually a lot more than the average person, okay? I remember I literally had a breakdown when I came to this awareness. I just thought I'd had a crappy childhood, and then I'd got ill. And it was like, no, you got ill because you had a crappy childhood. Oh my God. And I found that really, really hard to deal with, because I'd spent 4 years just talking about how my childhood was crappy, and then I've got chronic fatigue syndrome as well. Okay, so that's going on. Let's just say, you know, there's a number of traumas that happen in your life, okay, as well. Say a number of traumas, stuff that happens. I don't know, bullying at school with me. I was followed by a paedophile. What else? I was followed by a paedophile. I took over the newspaper round of a newspaper boy who was murdered, and I was then followed, and then I was spied by a burglar, and then, you know, big dysfunctional childhood. My father used to use a riding crop, which you use on horses, to discipline us as a child. Never thought I could go to either parent, was terrified of both of them, so in the inside the home was pretty bad. Let's say, what else? Let's say, you know, there's some, did I say bullying at school? I wasn't bullied at school, but some people are. Then there might be, let's say, your diet might not be so good because you're tranquilizing yourself with lots of sugar because you just want to try and feel good. But, you know, you're doing that, and that's quite, you know, the body has to eliminate that. It has to really work hard to do that. Let's say, what else? School is stressful. Let's say work is stressful. A marriage is stressful. You know, that goes on top. Or let's say you've had it, and let's say then you go and have a breakup, or your parents ask you to leave home, or I don't know, there's something else going on. What else? Maybe you have a car accident. Maybe you have, like, that's getting heavy. My arm's really starting to hurt now. And then you get a virus. And what's happened? The boat's sunk because it's carrying so much cargo that it literally, that really hurts my arm. I have to change it around the other way. Right, let's put it like that. And so you're coming into healing, and effectively let's say this is, you know, your body, this is your life, this is your part, this is your dysfunctional upbringing, this is all the other stuff that goes on, you know, and maybe you're taking, oh my goodness, it's literally going to fall over. Let's say you've taken loads of antibiotics as well because of the virus. It's really struggling, and it's going to sink. And let's say you work on a few things. Let's say you get into, like, for example, I do EFT. Let's say you do some EFT sessions and you begin to heal some stuff. Okay? So maybe, let's say you heal an issue. I don't know what this issue was. Let's say, let's knock this one off. There it goes on the floor. It's still really heavy and it's still sunk. So people can go, oh, well, I did EFT and it didn't work. Because my first experience of EFT, my meditation teacher and Tai Chi teacher, all the way back in, well, I don't do that now, but I used to go to a lady. And I had my first experience of EFT, and I was just euphoric, but it didn't really change anything, because you're attempting to change all of that, just with an hour or an hour or two of therapy or work. So you have to really, with serious disease, this isn't just with ME or whatever, this is with all serious disease. It's serious unease, and it's such unease that it's really hurting my arm. So you have to unpick all this stuff, and it does take time. You have to make peace on this stuff. You have to, which one was about eating, not eating well, and sugar and what. So you have. This is why, you know, you cut that out. You start eating really well. But I was eating exceptionally well for years and years and years, and sometimes the change was just minute. It didn't seem fair at all. But I knew that doing that and cutting out chemical products as well, it was all going to have an effect. And I worked on that's so heavy. I worked on the 2%. I worked on the 2% principle. 1% didn't seem enough. I thought, well, if this is going to make 2% difference to my energy, I will do it. And then I knew that there was, you know, you'd stack that stuff up. So I knew counselling, for example. I knew there was an emotional. I knew I felt better from going to counselling, for example, and it did help me. But of course, it didn't cure me, but it helped me. It might have done something like wherever the dysfunctional, let's say the dysfunctional childhood, which is that one, isn't it? This one, maybe it became a third, because counselling had helped me, and it was less weight. It was good. But with EFT and with other tools that I use, hypnosis and all the other things to make peace on my past and to eliminate this, or if at the very least, radically diminish it. So let's say, you know, you're only carrying 1/10 of what you once were. So let's just say, for argument's sake, let's just say it's gone, because you've lost 90% of that. That's still heavy. There's still stuff there. So, I mean, for example, I have the Epstein-Barr virus in my system. You never get rid of it. You'll never ever get rid of it. When you're out of stress, it's not being fired. Every now and again, if I'm driving in a car and suddenly a car pulls out of me and I'm like, whoa, you know, for whatever reason, or I was driving on holiday with my mum and this car veered out the fast lane just into, it didn't see me because I was in their blind spot. And it's that intense level of anxiety that you get because you think you might have a car accident. And my glands hurt immediately for about 5 to 10 seconds, and then it calms down again. But what I was living in, my reality was like living in that level of stress in life. So not just a single incident where, oh my God, I might have a car crash. It was like constantly in that place. Constantly. So with ME and chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, it's like trying to fill the bath, but the plug hole is not in. And not just is the plug hole not in, it's a giant plug hole. So all of the energy, all the water, all the natural stuff is going in, but it's just flooding out straight away. Absolutely just disappearing down the plug hole. It can't really fill up. You have to have a lot of energy to go in, but what we need to do is reduce the plug hole and actually get a plug in there. So, my God, this is hurting my arm. Right, so you make peace on this stuff, whatever all this stuff was, this light's going out now. So, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, and, well, that's you, say, in life. So, I remember being taught that a long time ago, and I remember thinking, my God, this is going to take me absolutely years to heal. And it did, because I knew that I'd got so many things to make peace on, so many, I had a sugar addiction where I was nearly diabetic, and that's like 6 bars of chocolate a day, and I used to eat, as a child, just spoonfuls of sugar. I'd go to the pantry, and that's because life wasn't sweet enough. You know, I wasn't getting the love that I wanted from my parents. It was scary, and so my whole neurology was nothing like it is like as an adult now, which is significantly more relaxed, and thus my immune system works. So with autoimmune disease, like when I was ill and just after I nearly killed myself because I was so bereft and lost, and you know, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with my immune system? And I'm on an autoimmune disease ward. And I knew there was a correlation by looking at all these people. I thought they all had some deep emotional issues. And the reality with that is, with autoimmune disease, can I look up here? Or with autoimmune disease, you're running huge amounts of fear. The first thing that shuts down when we're running massive amounts of stress is the digestive system. That's why I get clients with IBS, that they're running stress, and so literally you shit yourself by having IBS, that you're pooing a lot. Or you have constipation, which is another way of just withholding. So you're withholding or you're shit scared. So it's one or the other. But with autoimmune disease, it's even a higher level up from that, because there's so much anxiety going on. The immune system attacks its own itself. So here, autoimmune disorder, this one. I'll read this one out. Autoimmune disorder. This is what I had, which was just went huge, where I ended up, it was almost like I had a stroke down the left-hand side of my body. Autoimmune disorder. Immune system attacks their own body in an overreactive manner. So the first one, it says, what am I doing here? I totally agree with every single one of these. They are manifesting a dismayed discombobulation about the world and the way their life is going. It is a result of growing up in a vaguely overwhelmed and enmeshed family, or out of being here as a visitor from another soul pool for soul experience and destiny manifestation purposes. Hapless, helpless, hopeless. They have a great deal of sorrow, deep-seated grief and despair, and they are chronically crying on the inside. They feel overwhelmed and unable to handle the requirements of life. They have, in effect, thrown in the towel or even trying to make it in life. They come from a massively dysfunctional and demoralizing family. Last one. Allergic reaction to themselves, because that's what happened with me. My body reacted to the virus that was in me, and it just didn't know which was the virus and which was my own cells, so it attacked the virus and me at the same time and gave me arthritis. They feel somehow responsible for all the ills of the world, which they are the cause, and they are having a get rid of the problem response. They have ended up with little or no ability to receive or to request or to require a return in kind. It is a result of having carried the world on their shoulders all of their life, starting with their dysfunctional family. They were told, in effect, that they were the source of all the family's problems, while they were actually the only one who was deflecting some of the disasters. I did feel in my family that I was the sane one, and that would be very true. I'll talk about the people that I met on my journey. So I remember I went to an ME support group once, because I did feel that I needed to connect to other people who'd got it, because none of my friends understood and my family did, and I thought it would be useful. I went there once and never again, because the energy of the whole place I found was just so demoralising. And I remember actually, I went with a copy of Alex's book before I went down to see him, and I can recall people just being despondent. Everything that I've tried, this doesn't work. And what they would be talking about is symptoms, 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 symptoms. And I remember I took over from the guy who was chairing the group, who'd got it. He was a lovely guy, actually. I did remember calling him after I went to the Optimal Health Clinic, but he was like going, well, if it works, why is it so expensive? And, it should be available on the NHS. And I was just going, look, I'm not going to wait for it to be on the NHS. I've got the money. I want to get better. That's that simple. And even if it makes me 10% better, it's worth doing, because anything is an improvement would be better. But I remember running the group that time, because there was a woman going on and on about her symptoms, and it was making me so ill just by her talking about how difficult her life was and all the rest of it. And because I'd done meditation, because I'd done Qigong and Tai Chi, I knew about energy, and I knew that, it was just creating this sort of like whirlpool, and I felt like I was going to get sucked down, and I had to tell her to stop, and then gave her a few little tips. Also, when I joined the Optimum Health Clinic and I was training in 2006, I met all these people who had also, not every single one had got any on the course, but they were similar in as much as we all had similar stories about our parents, similar stories about how we struggle to integrate into life, and how we all so fearful, and we were running so much anxiety for basic things, really, quite similar things. It was nice to have that alliance with one another, but I mean, eventually, as I started to get better and I started to come out of fear and started to become more well, and I was integrating back into life, I realised that, you know, you become the people that you're around. So I much preferred to integrate with the people in the Tai Chi group and the Qigong group and the meditation group and other groups to do with spirituality. And I would just not talk about my health. If someone was to ask me about how is your health, or it was like, how are you? No, they'd just say, and how are you? And if I was feeling really ill, I wouldn't talk about the symptoms, because I knew that talking about symptoms was only going to perpetuate the reality. It's like someone who's poor, for example, and just, you know, hanging out with a load of people who are also poor, and you don't want to be poor anymore. So proximity is power. The people that you're around, unconsciously, you will come out from where you once were into that. It's rather like also if you spend enough time in an area, another part of the country, you might even start unconsciously starting to develop part of the accent, because we unconsciously wish to fit in. We unconsciously wish to merge with others in a way where there is safety in that, there's acceptance, and there's a belief that that is the way to be in the world. So that was another part of me getting better, that recognizing that, you know, what is chronic fatigue syndrome, what is fibromyalgia, what is this ME thing, and it's masses and masses and masses of emotional issues, more than the average person, so much that you can't even just do a simple few sessions on this and you're suddenly better. Like clients who come to see me, this is why I didn't want to treat chronic fatigue syndrome, because it's notoriously quite hard to treat, because A, people don't really have money, that was me. B, they're going to be so sceptical that it's going to work, because they do some sessions and they might minutely move forward. Whereas if you work, what I realised down at the clinic was, you use these tools on people who are like normal, going in life, they're just stressed out, and they're difficult relationships, difficult in their job, I don't know, afraid of taking a driving test or whatever, and, you know, you go and work on them, and hey-ho, they're better within a few sessions. We work with someone with serious disease, and it's, my goodness, you know, you're going against this all the time, whereas you're working with other people, it's just like, woo, and we're through. But that doesn't mean that you can't get better. It just means that you've got to dedicate your entire life to working on yourself, to overcoming your issues. I'm still working on issues to this day, but only because I benefit from doing it in every area of my life, whereas before I needed to do it because I needed to get well, because it was so painful being ill. What is ME? And what is chronic fatigue syndrome? What is fibromyalgia? It's all that stuff. It's all that overwhelming stuff from your past, where the load is so much. And what you'll find is that people with ME, people with chronic fatigue syndrome, I apologise if I keep saying what it is, because again, that's unconsciously put in my head. I always knew it as ME before chronic fatigue syndrome. There's so much to work on, but you work on things a little bit at a time. Like, to begin with, like, for example, I mean, when I got really ill, you know, there were times when I couldn't walk. So, just to set myself the outcome of being able to walk down the road for 5 minutes, or maybe, you know, I mean, I went walking with my brother once, and we parked the car and we were walking 5 minutes, and I just went, Tom, I can't go any further. We've only just started. I know, I'm absolutely shattered. I just can't do it. You know, other things where I had, extreme allergic reactions to, like, deodorant. You know, now I could go to the gym. You know, I don't put deodorant on. I have aloe vera and tea tree oil. Sometimes don't have anything at all. I use that rock crystal thing for a while. But, like, for example, there'll be a guy who will be, you know, at the gym. And normally I wouldn't be able to breathe any of that in because it's so toxic. But I could breathe that, and I'm not going to have a reaction like I used to do when I was extremely ill. I mean, I remember going to the pub with an ex who had chronic fatigue syndrome, and she wouldn't drink anything in the pub other than tap water, and then reacted to the tap water. I think I remember this being a metaphor as well. You know, years ago they used to take canaries down mines. If there was a gas leak and the canary stopped chirping and literally cut itself and sort of died, then no, there's a gas leak, because the human being could tolerate to breathe in more of the gas than the canary could. And I think, you know, chronic fatigue syndrome is pretty much like this. You know, lives that we live in, the people who develop it are like the canaries that go down the mines. You know, they literally just collapse because they can't cope. They can't cope with the level of family dysfunction on top of, you know, the chemicals in society and how society wants you to live in a, you know, completely stressed out way. And we kind of live in the Lemsip culture, which is, you know, you get ill, you take a Lemsip and you still go to work. I think if I hadn't got chronic fatigue syndrome, I would have been at risk of getting, in my 40s and 50s, being, let's say, a different personality type. I would have been at risk of heart attack, cancer, stroke, because when we get ill, it forces you to deal with your stuff. And that still doesn't force people to do it, because people still will then go and take medication, which is just tranquilizing and attempting to rebalance the system. But from what I've just read in that book, it's all about dealing with the emotional aspects. If you deal with the psychology and you deal with the emotional aspects, you can heal. You really can heal. There are other things as well, like, you know, I've done with cutting out chemicals as much in my life. But once your health gets better, your system is able to tolerate more of that. And it's really when the system is low, where it was so stacked with all that stuff, you know, and you just get another one where the toxicity of life or whatever. It's not the toxicity of life. It's not this and it's not that. It's all of it. And so you have to work at everything. You've got to treat someone holistically. You've got to treat the person, not the disease. So you've got to treat what's the individual and their life and every aspect in it. You know, I worked with somebody with IBS for quite a while, and they were still smoking and drinking coffee, and I was like, you've got to quit that, because it's only going to speed up your system, and it's going to give you even more anxiety. You know, it's no good for you. You know, you've got to cleanse yourself as well. So you've got to treat yourself fully in as many ways as possible, so that you've got every best chance for your body to heal, putting yourself in a healing place. Let's just talk about, you know, all illness, you know, all dis-ease. I think here's a book. I've mentioned this a number of times because I have had a few multiple sclerosis clients over the years. And when I was training in London, I found this book because it was in the Daily Mail. There's a link to it on my website. If you just go and put Dermot O'Connor, healed himself from multiple sclerosis. This is called the Healing Code. So that's not just for multiple sclerosis, it's for all illnesses. And I thought, well, my God, if this guy can heal himself of a degenerative form of multiple sclerosis, so all multiple sclerosis is degenerative, an aggressive form of multiple sclerosis, I can heal myself of any. MS will kill you. NE won't kill you, although I think there has been a recorded death of a girl who'd got it. So, okay, on the back, I'll just read that out. When Dermot O'Connor was diagnosed with a severe form of multiple sclerosis, the incurable and degenerative neurological disorder, he resolved to heal himself. 8 years after diagnosis, Dermot is in the best physical and mental health of his life. The revolutionary health system he created draws on both the proven approaches of Eastern medicine and scientifically established Western healthcare principles. The success of his approach has shown that it can restore good health no matter what your illness or condition. The groundbreaking 5-step plan will show you how to eat, how to detox, how to improve your emotional condition, and how advanced Eastern medicine-based exercise can transform your health. Dermot will guide you through the entire recovery process with a nutrition plan, psychological techniques, and easy-to-follow but incredibly effective exercises. The Healing Code is an amazingly powerful and proven system for anyone who wants to find themselves in the best health ever. Dermot's story bears testament to the powerful potential of self-healing. Susan Clark, author of What Really Works, series of health books. And there's a quote by Paul McKenna, Britain's famous hypnotherapist, on the front cover, which says, an essential guide to improving your health. Dermot was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when he was in his late 20s. I think he was 29, which often happens. And actually, it's if I look in the messages from the body book, and I've seen a few MS clients, it's inflexible thinking, dysfunctional childhoods, stuff very similar to NE, like all disease, and it's like loads of stuff, and then bang, it sinks, and you get disease, and it manifests in symptoms, and he's manifested in multiple sclerosis. So what has he put in here? It talks about his healing journey. And then the first part is to do with really NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Program, which is what I'm qualified in, which is that chapter is called The Psychology of Health Recovery. So you need to see, hear and feel yourself recovered before you get better. It's like no different than, let's say you want to manifest a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or want to manifest earning more money. If you see, hear and feel it enough times, over and 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 over again, the brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not real. So then it moves towards that reality because it believes that it already exists. So the reality that exists today with me making videos and seeing clients, and I believed I could do that, but it took me years. But I kept having to believe that this reality was possible. And it's like fishing. You cast the fly, is it, that you get in the water, but instead of pulling it towards you, you then are pulled towards it. So you go, well, that's where I would like to go, and out it goes, and it might seem totally ridiculous, totally abnormal, because it's out of your paradigm, the paradigm that you're in, the lifestyle that you're in, the health that you're in, the financial position you're in, every part that you're saying, that is what I would love to be experiencing from life. And as opposed to pulling it towards you, you are then pulled towards it, because you have something called an RES, which is a reticular activating system. That's part of your unconscious mind. And one of the laws of the universe is you get more of what you focus on. So if you are focusing on health, you're focusing on healing, you're focusing on recovery, you're focusing on energy, you're focusing on ease in your muscles, you're going to be moving further towards it. So like here, I actually did stuff in here 11 years ago. So he's talking about negative words, from changing negative words to, for example, aching to niggling, acute to temporary, afraid to uncomfortable, anxious to restless, disturbed to moved, and I added stressed to uncertain, pain to uncomfortable. Uncomfortable, your unconscious cannot delete an so uncomfortable. You're then thinking about comfortable. Uncomfortable. Wired to being in my head a lot. C.F.S to still stuck in the past. Fibromyalgia, the fading wanting to run to safety and love, I used to call that. I'm going to swear again. Fucked up, processing my past. Because I would just keep saying I'm fucked up. And it's supposed to say that all the time. I'm processing my past. It's very different. Abused to I felt loved in the past, but it is no more. Exhausted to gathering energy. Hopeless, needing encouragement. Okay, so he talked about writing a health recovery story, so I remember doing that. And there was a part of the book that I remember I filled out in here. Psychology of Health Recovery. Still on Psychology of Health Recovery. Still on Psychology of Health Recovery. And here we are. Creating a well-formed outcome. Clear objectives cause us to focus our attention. Anyone confronting illness will often encounter confusion in their thinking. This can lead to a lack of clarity in what you want to achieve. Another common reaction among people with a serious illness is to become preoccupied with the disease. There is an old Chinese medicine saying, where the mind goes, the body will follow. The following technique was developed by the genius mind of Dr. Richard Bandler, the founder, co-creator of Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and will enable you to consciously train and direct your subconscious mind towards success or outcomes. So basically, number one is state your health goal in the positive. This means that rather than stating something like, I don't want to have a sore toe, you would say, I want my toe to be strong and feel good. In fact, I would go even further to say, and I would say, my toe feels strong and good. Stating it in the now, in the present. So you can see all of the work that I did years ago, and I haven't seen this, I haven't read this out, so look, I'm going to read this. I want outstanding optimum health All of my joints are healthy with an abundance of energy every day, with soft and sweet, serene muscles full of warmth, fluid and ease and happiness. I want to have total peace, and I want to be able to pick up house spiders of sizes with calm and serenity and ease. Well, I put myself on a tarantula holding course the following year, and I held one. It walked up my arm, hand and arm. What's this? I want, okay, so I'm saying I want, but it's better to state I am rather than I want. I'll use I want here because this is what I put. Or it would be like, I now have a. So let's state this. It says I want, but I now have an alkaline body full of love, peace and happiness. To be standing totally calm and relaxed, strong and well for long periods, breathing very deeply and totally emotionally calm and free. I can now pick up house spiders of all sizes. Well, I actually can't pick up house spiders. I can trap them and then throw them out the window. So that's something I've obviously got to keep working on. I am emotionally free of the past. EFT and TFT have cleared it all. TFT is thought field therapy. It was a derivative from. Sorry, EFT was derived from TFT. So that's where it came from. But they're both tapping techniques. It asks, where are you in your objective? When do you want to achieve your objective? 6 months. April 2007, so I obviously started this in the autumn 2006. It took me a lot longer than that, but you do need to put outcomes to a degree. Where do you want this in my mind, thus body, in body, thus mind? Who are the people who will benefit from this outcome? Me, my family, my future clients, friends, because I was already training at that point, so I believe that I could do this. What will achieving this outcome do for you? Give me wellness, love, life, happiness, freedom. What will you do? Find love, travel, experience life, help others, maybe have a clinic, make music, inspire, make friends all over the world, laugh a lot, be happy, make great money to be able to do things. What will you say? What will you hear? I'm so proud of you. That's fantastic, amazing. Well done. I'm really pleased. Medical. You couldn't have had any in the first place. You couldn't have had it that badly, and there was a fear that other people with ME would go, oh, you didn't have it that badly. I nearly killed myself because I've got it so badly. Some people just get better. Oh, right, okay, so all this stuff that I immersed myself in religiously did not work then. What will you see when you achieve it? Smiles, tears of joy, an improved appearance in the mirror, a healthy complexion, brightness in my eyes, laughter, a sense of peace, joy at eating healthily, disgust at eating shit food. Lots of pictures and movies of me doing above and beyond that, and above that, and above that, and above that. A deep, deep peace of picking up spiders. When I am fully recovered, I will feel overwhelming feelings of physical sensations of joy, and of love, and of happiness, and of excitement, and of relief, and of pride, of strength, and of achievement, of an ability to easily manifest wealth, and spiritual permission to have wealth, of enlightenment, of balanced emotions, of deep inner peace, of power, of accomplishment, of meaning of life, of life's purpose, of reasons for pain, of further spiritual awakenings, of abundance, of light and lightness, of oneness, of superlative confidence, or of a super ability to overcome anything, of infinite wisdom, of clarity, of peace in picking up spiders, of oneness, connectedness, peace in working with clients or performing. I haven't really seen any clients then. Performing, which would be performing music. I will smell and taste the sweetness of life, the odour of ones I love that will make me peaceful and loved. I will taste champagne. I will smell flowers like I'm in heaven. Healthy, organic and nutritious food will taste divine, as this is the energy and vitality of life. I will smell the seasons and be in touch with nature. I will taste what is bad for me. This is what will you lose. Will you lose anything if you achieve this outcome? Free time. So, yeah, I'd lose more free time. Attention, significance for being ill. I'd lose my window cleaning round. Maybe the support and care for my family. I'd lose my friends from the course. And I'd lose anxiety, the ability to be able to protect myself, thinking that that's what anxiety would do. But it doesn't. Anxiety doesn't protect you. Love protects you. If you want to go and see an amazing woman who healed herself of a terminal diagnosis of cancer, look at Anita Mujani. And there's a 16-minute video that she does in a TED Talk, 16, 17, 18-minute video. And she says this very thing. She was attempting to heal herself of cancer, doing all various things, and then she got stage 4, which is the last stage of cancer before you die. She went in a hospice, and as she suddenly had this near-death experience, she could see her husband down the hall talking with the doctor. She could see her brother in India, I think he was, getting on a plane to come and visit her. She could be everywhere and anywhere, and she fortunately came back and survived and recovered. And she's now a spiritual author and doing really good work, and she's lovely. And I think she's nearly a type 2 with a 3 with them. How will your life change after you achieve the well-formed outcome? Massively. I will have new friends, new job, new surroundings, and a healthy income, freedom and health and energy, peace. How will you start taking action to achieve your well-informed outcome? Complete Alex's course, take advice from Nigel. Don't know who Nigel was. Oh, he was a business guy on the course. And he didn't have any at all. I thought, I met him, I thought he was a good guy. Meditate it out of me, read more of my books. Oh, read more of my books, meaning the books on the shelf. Okay, this is a good book to get, you know, even if you don't have multiple sclerosis. It was one of many, many, many things that I did. So Psychology of Health Recovery. The next one he's got is Taking Charge of Your Emotions. And guess what? That's tapping. He's doing TFT there, which is basically very similar to EFT. And taking charge of your emotions, because obviously, you know, if you're in a stressed place all the time, that's just going to make, if you're in a place of unease all the time, it's just going to make the dis-ease stay. So you want to be getting in this place of ease all the time. Create ease, ease, ease. Then nutrition was the next thing, and then the Healing Code Qigong program, Qigong, mastering energy using Qigong. There's a Chinese hospital, and all they'll do, I'm not sure if they closed it down there, but all they did or do is alternative ways of using energy. He's doing Qigong here. And that is using the Qi, and like if you've got serious disease and you're in a wheelchair, they'll get you to do Tai Chi and Qigong. Okay, so I think that's getting close to the end of an hour. If you would like a free consultation, I do them 20 minutes. I do them all over the world. You can heal. I mean, I remember at the Optimum Health Clinic them saying there were like 3 stages of ME, and that's the people who kind of, and it depends how much you're carrying on your cargo, on your boat, really. You know, some people just come into it. They do some EFT, or they learn about their psychology, or they do the stop technique, or the lightning process, or whatever it is, or the Asha Gupta's negative reprogramming thing, whatever it's called. I'm sorry, I don't know what it is called these days. I remember having the mat and all the rest of it 10 years ago. No idea what that is. Must be in the loft. Some people will just do that and they get better. Other people will have to do that and they'll have to really work on their diet, and maybe they'll have to do even deeper work with EFT. And there are other people who are really, really, really sick with it. And then they've got to do really, really, really deep work, and it's going to take time. And it's, you know, depending on how ill you are, on what level you've got, and only you're going to know that, and your unconscious mind's going to know that. And it's how long is a piece of string? It's where you are. You know, some people get colds and they get better quickly. Other people get colds and they have back-to-back colds, back-to-back colds, back-to-back colds. It's just where you are and what's happening. And you know, you're either going to feel drawn to work with me, or you're not going to feel drawn. But if all that I'm able to do is give you some hope, because I remember feeling totally hopeless, then that's my gift back to you, that you can watch these 10 hours of videos. Because I remember when I was seriously ill, I do remember saying, you know what, if I get better, I would like to help others. And I do, and I do charge for it, but you know, if someone goes and spends, you know, £500, £1,000 with me, or a couple of £1,000, you know, would you pay right now? Would you pay £5,000 if you could get well? I know I would, but I would be saying in the past, yeah, but can you guarantee I'm going to get well? And the reality is, you don't have to spend it all in one go. You know, my sessions are what they are currently. I'm not going to say what the price is, because these videos might be there in 5 or 10 years' time, and the prices might change by then. Most likely they will. It's whether you think I could help you, and whether you feel that I'm the person that could assist you in moving forward and gaining your health, and whatever health it is. You might come across these videos and you don't have ME, or chronic fatigue syndrome, or fibromyalgia. But this is how I work, and I've had success working with people the world over, so I invite you to contact me and email me, and that's the best way, and we can set up a 20-minute consultation. I wish you all the very best.